Love You to Death, Stan Kraychik Mystery, Book 2. Writer Grant Michaels, publisher St. Martin's Press, New York, 1992. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 11. A Damsel in Distress. The next morning I arrived at Snip's, with Tobias in tow. The shop was open, and I assumed that Ramon was already exercising his newfound keys and privileges as salon manager. However long they lasted, I greeted Nicky nonchalantly, as though my recent deposition didn't faze me. "Morning, doll. Am I forgiven for yesterday?" "Forgiven, yes, Stanley, but not reinstated. You have a 9 o'clock appointment, and after that you're booked solid." "Sounds like all work and no play today." "Unlikely for you." I looked around the shop and didn't see my rival. "Where's Swivel Hips?" I asked. "Who?" "Ramon. Poor thing called in sick, so you'll have to shampoo for yourself, too." The heir apparent crumbles under the yoke. "Just get to work, Stanley." Nicole then presented Tobias with a large gift box wrapped with expensive paper. His little fingers tore into it like a puppy's paws on a chow bag. Nestled inside was a big plush teddy bear imported from Germany. For all Nicky's complaining about the boy, her actions proved that she cared about him. "Nonsense," she remarked when I commented on her generosity. "I just want to keep him out of our way." My first customer of the day was my friend Chris, a freelance production assistant in Boston's theater world. He said he needed a big change and what we call a new look, something to lift his spirits out of the winter doldrums. I suggested color work, specifically a halo highlighting where 2 or more separate colors are skillfully interwoven with plain bleached hair to achieve a glowing crown effect. The complexity of the ideal appealed to him, and I launched into the challenging project. The first step was to separate the hair into sections along the natural growth patterns. Since theater was Chris's world, I asked him if he'd heard about the play I missed last night. The date with the hunky actor I'd had to turn down because of my recent parental charge. Chris laughed. "Phone sex," he replied. "A play about phone sex." It should have been more than that, but our local dramaticos ruined it by focusing on porn instead of the characters and their conflict. And the cast, well, I would have loved to run the auditions. "Forget acting, boys. Just show me your stuff." Ergo, it became a play about phone sex. Too bad. Perhaps I hadn't missed much with the hunk after all. On Chris's sectioned hair, I wove out selected strands and painted them with one of the 2 colors or with the bleach. Then I wrapped each treated within a separate color-coded piece of foil. By the time I finished applying all the color, Chris's head resembled an Aztec pyramid of fluttery, multicolored foil. When he saw his reflection in the mirror, he exclaimed, "I look like a Vegas showgirl." While the colors cooked in Chris's hair, I had just enough time to perform the weekly trim on the viral head of a popular television newscaster, a regular appointment that kept him looking perfectly groomed without looking recently cut. 30 minutes later, Chris's color work was ready for finishing, which I did, with him facing away from the mirror to intensify the dramatic effect. When it was completed, after my last masterful touch, I turned his chair around to face the mirror. He seemed awestruck by the effect. The 2 shades of blonde, along with the bleached hair blended into his former mousy brown head, made it seem to glow from within itself, really like a halo. He didn't say a word, so I supplied my own compliment. "I like it," I said. "That's all that matters." By late morning, Tobias had become restless from being in the shop, so I took a short break with him and went for a walk in the public garden, which is only half a block away. Once in the garden, Tobias ran full speed toward the snow-covered banks of the Swan Pond. He tumbled down into the snow and rolled himself like a big snowball toward the empty lagoon. When his small body came to rest, he played dead in the snow. Face down, I knelt down over him and gently tickled him. I could see him tensing up and refusing to laugh, but I persisted until I overcame his resistance. He rolled onto his back and faced me, now laughing loudly and flailing about in the snow, tossing some of it up onto me until I had to pin his arms down to stop him, but the physical restraint only caused him to laugh louder. "Want to make snow angels?" I asked, crouched over him. "Is that like making love?" "Tobias, don't talk like that." I feared that passer-by might overhear and get the wrong idea. Why was this kid so insistent on proving me a pederast? "No," I said. "It's like doing this." I rolled off him and laid down in a clean patch of snow and made the requisite motions with my arms and legs. Then I stood up and showed him the splendid angelic form I'd created in the snow, a kind of reverse bas-relief. Tobias studied the neatly depressed snow, then remarked, "Why is it wearing a dress?" "That's a holy robe." "I'm going to make a bum angel," he said, and started to unfasten his pants. I realized instantly what he was about to do, so I snagged his little arms. "No, you don't, young man. Not with me." I quickly halted his imminent exhibitionism, but it was too late. People had already seen and heard enough to wonder what a red-haired man in his early 30s was doing diddling with the trousers of a blonde-haired brown boy of 4. "It's all right," I heard myself begin to explain aloud. But I realized that explanations only sounded defensive. I dragged Tobias out of the garden and headed back to the shop. Once inside, he grabbed his new teddy bear and fell asleep on one of the big cushioned chairs in the waiting lounge. I wondered how the little monster could appear so peaceful and harmless in sleep. While awake, he challenged mind, body, and soul. I was checking the book to see who my next customer was when the phone rang. The receptionist answered it and told me, "It's for you, personal." She sounds pretty upset. I took the phone, prepared to hear some customer complaining that her hair didn't look the same as it had after my recent ministerings. But it was Liz Carlini, and she was frantic. "Vanos, thank God you're there. I don't know who to turn to." "What's wrong?" "Something horrible has happened." "Are you okay, Liz?" "I'm not injured, if that's what you mean." "Then what happened?" She paused and spoke as though she was telling a group of stockholders that there'd be no dividends this quarter. "Someone tried to shoot me." "Did you call the police?" "Of course, they're on their way." I wondered why she called me then. I got my answer fast. "Vanos, can you come here now? I'm at home." "I'm working, Liz. Oh, please, I need someone I can trust here with me." I didn't answer her. I couldn't. She continued with a slightly calmer voice. "I hope you've forgiven me about yesterday. I was a perfect fool." "Those things happen," I replied, but I wondered why she wanted me there with her instead of her husband. "Vanos, please come. Take a cab. I'll pay for it. Just hurry." She seemed awfully eager to see me. Then, too, maybe I'd find out something by going. "All right, Liz, I'm on my way." I hung up and went to Nicole's table. She was trimming thick cuticles from the claw-like nails of Beacon Hill Dowager. "Doll?" I asked tentatively. "No, Stanley," she replied, her attention still focused on her surgery. "But Liz is in trouble." "So are you, Stanley. You're already taking an unscheduled break, and your next client is waiting." What could I do but get back to work? Fortunately, it was a no-frills wash and set. I'd have her in and out of my chair in 50 minutes, just like a real shrink. Ordinarily, I would have lingered and fussed with her hair, cultivating a stronger bond between client and stylist, but I had more pressing concerns than nurturing my clients now. When I finished, I announced to Nicole, "I've got to go. It's an emergency." "Fine, Stanley, leave. I suppose you expect me to babysit Tobias while you're gone." "Would you?" Without a word, Nicole wrote something down in a small leather-bound ledger. "What's that?" I asked. "I'm keeping an account of all the favors I do for you." "Since when?" "It's a little survey Chaz suggested, and now I'm curious myself to find out just how much time and energy I spend on you. There's a column here for the favors you do for me as well." "Why keep track, Nikki? With friends, it all comes out in the wash." "We'll see, darling. Now just tootle off on your white knight's mission. Leslie's here today, so she can cover for you. Admirably, I might add." Vaguely annoyed, I hurried outside and got a cab to the Prentice Cardini mansion in Chestnut Hill. I told the driver, "Pedal to the metal," and she got me out there in 15 blurry minutes. On arrival, I saw 2 police carrier cruisers still parked on the street. So I wasn't too late, despite my delayed start, when I noticed the curious presence of Lieutenant Branco's green Alfa Romeo parked in the driveway. Perhaps police protection in the wealthy suburbs had an element of overkill. I trotted up the dry asphalt, then tried to convince the cop guarding the door to let me in. After checking with the others, he allowed me to enter. I followed the sound of voices coming from the living room, which was decorated to resemble the main reception room of a London townhouse. Liz Carlini was sitting on the edge of a creamy, mohair-covered sofa. Branco sat in a matching chair, facing her directly and asking her questions. Two other uniformed officers were also in the room. Both were good-looking men, probably expressly chosen for this particular Chestnut Hill beat. One stood taking notes behind Liz, where she sat on the sofa. The other one stood next to Branco. When I walked into the room, Branco said, "What are you doing here?" Liz answered him quickly. "I asked him to come." I waved to Branco in a friendly manner and noticed that he actually looked tired. I felt kind of sorry for him. Maybe he really did work hard. Branco turned back to questioning Liz. "Think again, Miss Carlini. Are you sure there's no one who might want to hurt you?" Long pause. "No." "What about your husband?" Liz shot an accusing glance at me as though I'd told the police that she and Prentice were temporarily separated. We had a small disagreement, but that wouldn't drive Prentice to such extremes. Then she added with a little snicker, "Nothing would." "He might be more angry than you realize." "It's not his style, Lieutenant." "Miss, someone tried to hurt you." Then Branco's eyes dropped, and I realized he was focusing on Liz Carlini's shapely legs. She was an appealing woman, not like a model or a goddess, but attractive and healthy and in a very good shape. Liz cared for her body as seriously as she did her career. Perhaps Branco was seeing the strong-willed Italian girl who had finally broken from her repressive family to succeed as a glamorous businesswoman. That was probably the kind of woman he'd pursue, someone independent who would be a challenge to him. Not like me, who would submit to his merest whim and gratitude. But didn't Branco see an aggressive person might also want to dominate his angry stallion side? Perhaps even render him a gelding? Liz cut his appraisal of her limbs and coyly changed her position to show them off even more. No wonder this police report was taking so long. "Lieutenant," she said, "maybe I'm making too much of it. Perhaps it was just some young boys, high on drugs or something." I noticed a slight change in her voice, a softening of the edge, an inviting inflection. "I really should have thought twice before calling you here. I'm also ashamed to be making such a fuss." But her body language was saying, "Here, kitty, kitty." "Miss Carlini," Branco said boldly, "gunfire is not something we take lightly. Big man protects helpless maiden. Did you get a make on that car?" Liz shook her head. "It all happened so fast. All I remember is a big maroon sedan." "Do you know anyone who owns a car like that?" Liz thought a moment. "Not offhand," came the breathy reply. It was time for this little minuet to get some jazz, so I chimed in. "What kind of car does John Lowe drive?" Branco scowled at me. "Kraychik, don't you have something else to do? Maybe change the diapers on that kid of yours?" "He's potty trained, Lieutenant." Liz thought a moment, then gave a troubled answer. "Lieutenant, Vanos is right. My brother-in-law, John Lowe, drives a large maroon sedan." Branco spoke into a small two-way radio clipped into the belt. I knew the signal would be relayed through the transmitter in his car and back to the station. I heard him order an APB for John Lowe's car, which I knew was cop talk for All Points Bulletin. Meanwhile, I asked Liz what had happened. She explained that someone had driven by her house earlier and fired numerous shots through the front windows of a seldom-used study on the side of the house. Another cop was in there now investigating the broken window and the bullet holes in the wall. "Liz," I said, "how can you think it was kids on drugs?" "I don't know what to think anymore. Would John really do such a thing? He might have killed me." "Or your husband. This could have been another attempt on his life." When Branco's attention was back on us, I said, "Well, Lieutenant, at least you can't blame these gunshots on Laurette Cole." Except for an annoyed scowl, Branco ignored the comment. Liz said, "Lieutenant, there is something else, though I am not sure it's relevant. My husband has been having some trouble with John Lowe about the company, too." The company? Asked Branko. Liz smiled politely, or was it cockishly, before she said, My husband owns Gladys Gardner Chocolates. The whole company? Liz nodded. Branko whistled quietly through pursed lips. Without thinking, I blurted, Tidy little parcel, huh? Branko whirled at me. Kraychik, I want you out of here. Lieutenant, now, before I have to haul you out. I got up and shuffled through the deep carpet and left the room. I loitered in the foyer, hoping to eavesdrop, but one of them uniformed officers shoved me toward the door. So much for that idea. I wanted to talk some more with Liz, so I decided to wait around outside until the cops left. I wandered over to Branko's car and leaned up on the front fender. The sun had warmed the metal up, and the heat penetrated my chinos pleasantly. With my fingertip, I rubbed at the dull paint on the hood. A few moments of that uncovered the glossy paint hiding under the oxide surface. So there, on the hood of Lieutenant Vito Branko's car, I rubbed and rubbed and rubbed until I had drawn the outline of a Valentine's heart. I retraced the design until the shape gleamed through the dull paint. I even made an arrow, and then his initials, VB. As I was about to add the remaining initials to the Valentine, Branko came out of the house. You still here, he said gruffly. I came to see Liz, not to bother you, Lieutenant. How do you know her? I do her hair, he grunted. Looks like you did good work. He nodded and said, Thanks. So he had been admiring her. I'm sorry if I got in the way, though. Since when do you apologize? Whenever I accidentally step on someone's toes. Skip it. Sometimes an extra voice doesn't hurt. That was Branko's version of absolution. He got in the car and started it up. Through the windshield, I could see him studying my artwork on the hood of his car. The corners of his sensuous mouth curled in the tiniest smile. Then he put the car in gear and backed down the driveway. Liz Carlini's legs had put him in a good mood. I returned to the house just as a crew of ununiformed cops was leaving. Liz saw me and said, Thanks for coming, Venos. I was hoping you'd stay around. I could use some company. After yesterday, I wasn't sure. I'm sorry about that. I'm truly sorry. I was probably a little pushing myself, to be honest. I've been under so much pressure between the business and my marriage. I seem to lash out at anything, even people who care about me and who want to help. I'm afraid I attacked the messenger along with the message. Will you forgive me, Venos? Consider it done. Thank you, she said, and with that bit of social interaction promptly and successfully executed, she went and put on her winter coat. I'm going out to Abigail now to tell Prentice what's happened here, to warn him. I'm sure he's in danger now. I know it was John who fired those shots, but I didn't want to tell the police that. Why not? Our family problems are none of their business, but you could have been killed. My only concern now is to warn Prentice. Why don't you call him? He won't talk to me. He hangs up. Try again. You can't stand on ceremony if someone is trying to hurt you. She considered my words. Maybe you're right, she said, then went to make the call. After she dialed the number, I heard her talking to someone, but it was without pause, and I guessed that she was leaving a message on an answering machine. When she was finished, she returned to me and said, He wasn't there, so I left a message. At least he knows now. I just hope I'm not too late. Her desperation was building, as though she was about to lose the bid on an important contract. Venos, do you think you can come out there with me? I considered her question a moment, then shook my head. No, I have work to do at the shop, Liz. But if you come with me, you can back up my story. Maybe Prentice will finally believe that I care about him. Liz, I said, hoping to back out of this entanglement gracefully, I think this is really a family matter, something for the two of you to work out. If you need an objective listener, there are professionals who can help. I'm not going to pay some stranger to act like a friend. I thought you cared. Great, Stanley. Nice, heartless, insensitive work it did. Occurred to me that the real cause of Liz Carlini's emotional state may have been the recent visit by Lieutenant Branko. I can understand that more than once I'd been close to hysteria after I'd spent time with him, but I usually channeled it more into positive action, like eating half a pound of chocolate pecan fudge. I surrendered to her apparent need. Okay, Liz, I said, I'll call the shop and explain, that I'll be delayed, then we can head out for Abigail together. She nodded approvingly. Thank you. There was something a little too smooth about the whole thing. I felt that I was playing a part that had been set up for me, and it bothered me. Still, I went along with it. When I called Nicole, she took the news coolly. I could hear her making a notation in her ledger of unreturned favors. I asked facetiously, "Are you keeping track of the favors I do for others, too?" "Of course, those count as 2 marks against you." So Liz Carlini and I set out on our trip to Abigail to warn her husband of imminent danger. There's nothing like the honest concern of a loving spouse to patch up a conjugal squabble. Then again, if Down Dougherty or Rafik answered the door instead of her husband, would she still feel so caring? Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.